We've been very lucky in the past to get very interesting people as guests on our show, and sometimes we're lucky enough to trick them into coming back. We are excited to welcome back sportscaster and author Rob King. Welcome to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Enjoy the show. Rob King is a sportscaster. He does the play-by-play on radio for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's a sports anchor for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He is also the author of 2 acclaimed middle-grade novels. His latest book, Sandina's Prophecy, is the second book in a series following a brother and sister from Pittsburgh who find themselves in the fantastical world of Cavenland as they make new friends, discover new powers, and fight battles against wizards and warriors. Welcome back to the show, Rob King.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you, even though it is baseball season and you're cheering for the Pirates. So
I am. Yes.
No choice, I think. It's a professional requirement at this point.
I think.
Yeah, so,
I got a new app. Sorry, I got a new app on my phone that automatically shows the scores of games. Last night, it was not a good. I was like, how do I turn this thing out? The Reds were losing 13-0 at one point.
So if you're a Reds fan, so that's where they're. Tom, are you a Cubs fan?
I'm not really, because I don't really follow baseball much. So when I go to games these days, it would be to see the Cubs as opposed to the Sox. But I kind of root for the Pirates just because I grew up in the area.
Gotcha. I like it. Good man.
So you're working hard. You finished up the football season, actually, technically, just last weekend, it seems like, at the draft. And now you're hard at work with baseball, which will last you the rest of the summer. And somehow have a new novel out. How are you getting all of this stuff done?
I don't know. I guess I'm just used to it. I'm used to long hours, and I think we might have discussed this last time. A lot of writers will set aside a certain amount of time every day. Hey, from 6 to 8 p.m. I'm writing, and then after that I'm good. And I just can't do that because of my hours, and so I will find stretches of time. I'm working on the third and final book of the trilogy now. And so whenever I find time, I just squeeze it in. And once I get started, I kind of don't want to stop, which is bad for my golf game. But I'm happy to get done. And but I enjoy it. That's the thing, Tom. There's nothing that I'm doing that I don't enjoy. I love doing baseball. I love doing football, play-by-play. I love writing. I love playing golf. So it's, it's just a matter of juggling it. And somehow if you love it all, it finds its way getting done.
You may be one of the few people I know who can kind of truthfully say you're living the dream. I hear that phrase all the time, but that sounds pretty awesome to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's, like I said, there's like anybody else's job, there's times you're like, whew, this is a lot, but then you just have to take one half step back and say, this is a pretty good day doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go watch Paul Skeens pitch. That's not so bad,
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I would tell us a little bit before we jump into some sports questions, because Chris and I are both we're a little curious about last weekend's draft. Tell us about Sandina's Prophecy and the series.
So it's the second book. The first book was called The Door in the Stone. As you mentioned, it has a couple kids from Pittsburgh because I'm living in Pittsburgh and have been here and it's my home. And they go into this mysterious world, Cavenland or Cavenland. It's funny when you say it, you think it one way in your mind, but it really doesn't matter.
That was one of my questions, by the way.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like so think about it as a Stranger Things set in a fantasy world, right? Where the kids are doing most of the problem solving of the world, and they're the ones on the front lines facing the biggest adversity. And, I think that kids are used a lot in fantasy books as protagonists because they lead with their heart. I've used this analogy before that, as we grow up, we talk about the scenario in which, if you're on a safari and being chased by a lion, we say, well, you don't have to be the fastest. You just can't be the slowest. Ha ha ha. Well, kids aren't that way. They don't think that way. As one, they'll turn around and face the lion, so they're idealistic. And so it makes it a lot of fun to write from that. And yet the kids in my book are also, grappling with some large issues and they're coming of age. So there's some of that stuff involved as well. And so you're trying to make it as realistic as possible. It sounds, realistic fantasy, doesn't sound like a couplet that works together, but that's sort of what I'm after here is, the fantasy world allows you to create your own scenarios in which kids have to battle. And so, there are no, I don't know if you guys watch Stranger Things, there are no Gorgons, right? They don't exist. But you can make them exist and then have a battle like that of good and evil that hopefully strikes a chord.
Yeah, boy, you hit it on the head for me. I feel like the characters, particularly in your second book, like it's just getting better as far as I'm concerned. And the relationships between the characters were much more, I guess, I don't want to say well drawn. I want to say just they're more obvious as they become better friends. It creates different kinds of conflict, and it creates all kinds of internal monologues. And as you said, with middle grade kids, you've got romance, but they don't know what to do about it. And
right.
And they have to fight to be courageous about things. I've really enjoyed the series. This book in particular, one of my questions you just answered, which was, is this going to be a series or a trilogy? I wasn't 100% sure. I'm a little sorry to hear that there may only be one more book in this land, though. So you may have to keep going as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I did have a fourth book in mind that would take place shortly after the series ends, but let me get the third one written first, and then we'll go from there. But I have to tell you, it's I've tried writing other things in the past, and this one was the one that really made sense to me, and I've just had an absolute blast reading it. So I'm gratified that you enjoy it. I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad that you're the second person that's told me, at least, probably more, that they liked the character development in this book first. When I wrote it, when I wrote the first book, The Door in the Stone, I wanted to write it for boys because, the not like I'm going to save the world, but, the declining reading numbers of boys in that, say, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, set, which is, it's partially aimed at that, but it's, the hope is that grownups will like it too. I didn't want it to be, like when you sit down with your kids and you have to watch a show, you're hoping the show's good. Like, if I sat down with my kids and watched Bugs Bunny, I'd be laughing along with them. If I was watching, say, Teletubbies, I'd be pulling my hair out, So I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be the latter. I wanted to be the former. And so it was important to me to make it readable for all ages. But so I really started out with a plot, more than anything. And this idea of fast paced and moving it along and trying to make sure that when every chapter ends, you want to turn the page onto the next chapter, was very much geared toward boys. And then I had to pull back a little bit and make sure I was developing the characters, because honestly, a book doesn't matter. A TV show doesn't matter. Nothing matters if you're not pulling for the characters. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't draw you in. So, I'm glad you said that, and my hope is that by the third installment, it'll be sort of complete in that regard.
Yeah, because I sure as hell have a lot of questions. It was the perfect second book of a trilogy, because I think you really laid a lot of groundwork in your first novel. This one, I really got connected to those characters. The other thing that I found, and I think it was in the first book as well, but particularly in this book, this isn't something I look for in a novel, and it's not something that I usually comment on, but there's a real sense of geography in this book. Like, did you start out drawing a map of what Covenland was going to look like and where they were going to be, trekking off to for their various missions and battles?
I have to tell you, I don't remember. Isn't that, so, I will say this. By the time the first book was finished, there's very little I had to change. My daughter is the illustrator. And she's been with me every step of the way as far as being a good critic of the book. And
that's great.
She's a PhD student in English. And so she's going to be a professor one day. So she was very helpful, really good sounding board for things, but she drew the map. And I think there was one thing that I didn't point out that hey, Coop, we have to change this one thing, but I don't think I've changed anything. So I think I've known about it for a while, But, the first book took me so long to write because, frankly, I had no idea what I was doing. Hopefully I have a better idea of what I'm doing now. And then getting an agent and all the other stuff, it just took a long time. And so, somebody was asking me yesterday, how long did it take you to write the books? Well, the first book was practically 10 years. The second book, probably 3 or 4 years, because I wrote it during COVID and the characters have changed. The characters in the original book changed slightly. So I had to rewrite it. This third book I'm writing pretty much from scratch. And I think I'll be done with it. My hope is to have it out in November. And so it has gone from 10 years to say 4 years to now, 9 months. I'm going to have hopefully this last book written. So it's been a while since I started writing. So I don't. It's interesting you say that because it was kind of important to me that the map is a little bit like Scotland, which is where my daughter's studying. So I told her draw it kind of like Scotland, the shape of the country more or less. So not that it's not intended to be set in Scotland, but the shape of that country happened to work with how I envisioned the country being.
Because it's funny because I think there's a map somewhere on the cover or I remember seeing one, but I'm not a guy when I read books like even Lord of the Rings, which you practically have to look at a map when you read those books. But that never interested me that much in general. But what's interesting to me is the sense of geography without even looking at a map. Like the forest is a big part, particularly of the first book, but even in the second book, their battles are in the south or people are moving to the north, and it added some realism to a fantasy tale that as I said, I usually don't even think about those things, but it struck me that you really have a sense of place about this land that you created out of your head.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And yes, I mean the geography is important in the book, and I think part of that is just trying to make sure, like I said before, like realistic. Well, what's realistic? Well, I have made up characters, right? So how realistic is it? But I suppose you could parse that out with any sort of novel, right? Like, sure. I'm glad you said that, and it is because it is an important part of all 3 books. The third book is definitely so all of them. So thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
Well, my only other comment is that I don't think I've ever read a book that used the word Nebby. It struck me coming from that area, growing up near Pittsburgh. Although where I grew up, which was in Wheeling, West Virginia, which is a little bit south, it was Nibby. People were if you were getting into somebody else's business, you were called a nib or a nibby. And there's a little exchange in the middle of the book that just made me laugh out loud because it was funny to me, and anybody who's buying your book in Pittsburgh is going to get it, but I'm not sure anybody else will. That made me laugh out loud. I swear to God.
Well, thanks. I did want to inject a little bit of that in there. I mean, Pittsburgh it's just a special place. And I mean, I absolutely love the city, love everything about it. But the people are what makes it. I mean, everyone says the sports, absolutely. The sports are phenomenal. The people rooting for those sports teams are what makes Pittsburgh so great. And there's a unique way of talking, and they haven't lost it in a lot of ways. It hasn't been, not all of the smooth edges have been buffed off, which is wonderful.
You probably made a conscious decision not to have them say yins a lot in the book.
Yeah.
No, that's I can hear it in my head now.
Nebby and gum band and these little sort of Pittsburgh words that you're like, wait, what does that mean?
Well, before I forget, you can find Sandina's Prophecy as well as A Door in the Stone pretty much anywhere you buy your books online. We will have a link to the Amazon page on our website. You can find it now.
Thanks. Hopefully some folks will read it and enjoy it. That's the whole goal.
Absolutely. Well, I for one can tell you that I really enjoyed both books so far. I'm urging you to don't stop at 3, but that's all right. You can create a new world for me if you want.
So thanks, Tom. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So one other kind of writing, and I guess more like just personal related question, with all that you do, both professionally as a broadcaster and also with the with your writing, it occurred to me Are you able to read for pleasure at this point? Do you have time to read books and enjoy yourself that way? Because I know, because we know each other, from before back in
Yeah,
school. I know you're a big reader. I know it meant a
right.
lot to you. So it seems like it might be hard to find the time these days.
Well, I've pretty much become just a nighttime reader. So the days where I would, sit back and read a book. I mean, if I even thought about that, the guilt of you should be doing something else would be coming in because there's a lot going on right now. I hope to get back to that. I really do. But I literally cannot get to sleep unless I'm reading a book. So book light on. I'm a big fan of well written, detective novels that I think I think the well written ones are just as good as anything else. I'll read some occasional fantasy. Somebody got me the science fiction series The Expanse, and I just finished that. I'm reading The Scarlet Pimpernel right now, going way back in the way
Really?
back machine. I've
Nice.
never read it. Luckily, it's just the kind of book that allows me to get to sleep quickly. When I was trying to finish The Expanse the other night, I was like, "Oh my goodness gracious, I gotta get to sleep." So yeah, I still read. I love reading. I mean, I can't. I don't. And I've said this before. To the best of my knowledge, I've read every single day of my life. I can't think of a day in which I haven't cracked open a book, whether on vacation or home or whatever. And I just I love it, and I hope people don't stop doing it. I know I go to the bookstores and they're filled, and the libraries, and
Yeah,
there's
we
my
got to
old
get
guy.
that word out.
Yeah.
All this talk about reading made me think about Brian Regan, one of my favorite comedians. I saw one of his jokes. He's like, I just took a speed reading course, not to brag, but my speed shot up to 43 pages a minute. So
That's awesome.
just kidding. I've always been an avid reader too. I have not yet read your books. I apologize. I don't know how you do it either, because just between work and other stuff, I'm having a hard time keeping up just with this podcast. So, but I do manage to keep up with football. How was the experience of having the draft in Pittsburgh? That's really cool on TV, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the stage go up, and this week I'm watching the stage go down. But the 3 days of the actual draft, I was never downtown, but I did see the way the Pittsburgh showed. So I was doing an event I was doing events at Station Square, and then the Steelers, the radio is set up at the Steelers facility on the south side, which is maybe 3 miles from downtown, and so that's where it's always been, and that's where the teams themselves are not at the draft. The players are at the draft.
Right.
So I did when I left Station Square the first night, I took a wrong turn. And so if anybody has any concept of Pittsburgh, if you take a wrong turn there, you are driving and driving and driving and driving until you can get out. So I drove all the way down, actually parallel to the stadium when I was supposed to be going in the other direction. And I saw the giant screen they had on the outside of the Wyndham. And Jordan Tyson had just been selected. And I was like, man, that just looks so cool.
Oh my God.
And I know my son lives downtown. He was walking around the point with his girlfriend, and he said it was just a fabulous experience, and 820,000 people, they had a record, and the city, I mean, it's such a beautiful city, and it shows up well in those shots at night.
Yeah, very cinematic, right? Holy hell.
Yeah,
It looks
really
beautiful.
cinematic. Yeah, I mean, it's a reason that they shot the Batman movies and other things here, because it's just it's just got a cool vibe to the city, and the bridges are phenomenal. And so the city really showed up well, and I don't think there were any incidents. I think it went off without a hitch. People were panicked about the driving. Pittsburgh's not really. I mean, look, you guys are in Chicago, or Tom's in Chicago. You could step into your car at any time of day, and a 10-minute trip could be 45 minutes.
Right.
It's really not that bad in Pittsburgh. And so for me, getting downtown for work wasn't that big of an issue. Now, I didn't park and walk to the event, but by all accounts, it went off without a hitch. And I loved the way the city showed up.
Yeah, it was amazing to see those drone shots and just see the sheer numbers, especially on the first night. But even just throughout, I mean, even on Saturday, they get into the late rounds, and there's so many people there. It was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and
It,
Pittsburgh loves its sports, as you guys
Oh
know.
yeah.
They love their Penguins, their Pirates, and their Steelers. And the college teams. High school football is huge here, so not surprised at all.
yeah, I was in Pittsburgh the summer of '91, working downtown, and walked over to Point State Park for the celebration for the Penguins Stanley Cup victory, and
Cool.
could not get in front of the stage. Like the closest I could get was to see like sideways, completely, looking parallel from the stage. So I could kind of see profiles of people a little bit from about a half a mile away, but you couldn't get, like, it was packed to the river around. So you talk about them showing up. That was such a blast. It was so much fun just to go kind of at lunchtime and see. But that couldn't have been a third. It had to have been even less than that of the numbers that were there for the draft.
Yeah, we were so the Penguins won the first cup 0809. Shortly after that, like within a day or two, I was off on vacation. And a friend of mine they asked the broadcasters, and at that time I was the pregame and postgame show host for the Penguins. They asked us to be in the parade. So I was out of town, and my co-host Jay Caulfield was like, "Hey, if they win again, you should think about getting in this parade thing." And Jay was a player who was on that 91 on the 91 and 92 teams that won the cup. And so when they won the cup, the next 15 and 16 or 16 and 17, my mind's which was it? Anyway, when they won the next two cups, I went to the parade and I was in it and rode in it. And there's a little bit of like, well, I didn't score any goals, so
Right.
what am I doing here? But every time you rounded a bend, you're like, boy, that was spectacular. And then you round another bend and there's another. I mean, people were hanging out of parking garages. I mean, there was like 500,000 people there within like a 2 or 3 square block area. It was pretty sensational to be part of that and just to be able to see it from the player's perspective looking out at it.
So you've been involved in sportscasting for quite a while at this point. It really amazes me at the size and the scope of the NFL draft in general. What an event it's become compared to. I mean, I remember watching it on ESPN. Like, I don't even think it was on ESPN. I think it was on ESPN2. It was on the Ocho, and
Right.
And the only people there it was always just a bunch of Jets fans because it was always in New York, and that's all you would see. What's your experience in just how big this has become and how it affects the teams and the league in general?
Well, it's pretty incredible. And, I remember it was in a ballroom in New York City. A ballroom. That's where it was. I remember Phil Simms getting drafted, everybody booing, Giants fans and Jets fans are both be there booing. And it's just what the NFL has become. And it's a nonstop. I mean, about the only real off time for the NFL is after camps are open or after, the OTAs and stuff close up and camps open. And even then, I think there's late signings and, July signings and these other little bits of news that happen. But it's become just a 365-day machine, and everything about it is it's just nonstop. And so all the looking forward to the draft. I mean, when you think about the individual, events that occur, the combine, and then they have, the league meetings, and then they have the draft, and then they have the OTAs, and these can seem like separate events, but they're stitched together by the interest of the fans. And so it just never stops, I mean, the minute the Super Bowl is over, it's like, let's get ready for the combine. And, if you had told me, hey, 30 years ago, there's going to be a combine in Indianapolis and, guys in shorts are going to be running around cones and sprinting, 40 yards and everyone's going to watch it, I'd say, what? But here it is. And I've been to the combine several times and love the experience. And, you start to talk to people and learn things. And, you're talking to different scouts or GMs. Well, not GMs really, but scouts from other teams or your team or, broadcasters or, people that run websites. Some of them are very good. Some of them, maybe their opinion you wouldn't trust quite as much, and you're trying to filter out what's what, and it just never stops. And so, the draft has become something that was sort of a niche thing for hardcore football fans like me into just a massive event that draws everybody in. And the NFL's done a masterful job of making sure that they're in the news, and they are the news all the time.
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned the combine, because you and I were both in Indianapolis. I think it was 2 years ago for the combine, and I think we texted back and forth, never were able to connect. But I ended up taking my boys there with a bunch of other players from their soccer team because they had time in between games.
Yeah.
And in fact, we saw Will Howard work out. We got to saw the quarterback day, quarterbacks
right.
and receivers, and that's Lucas Oil Stadium, which is a huge NFL-sized stadium, and it was half full. And I couldn't believe there were that many people there to watch basically guys play catch. It was insane.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy, and it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to be part of. And to be honest, I mean, even from the outside, you know how big it is, and I think I've just gotten a sense. I'm not even sure if I fully grasp it in working full time, as the play-by-play guy the last, for 2.5 years now, just how massive it is. I mean, I knew it was big, right? I knew it was big, but I mean, I covered I've been in NHL and baseball markets my entire life, going back to St. Louis and now here in Pittsburgh for the last 26 years. But and I've obviously covered the Steelers over the years, but just sort of it's given me a little bit different perspective on just the massive scale of the NFL. And of course it grows every year, I mean, we were in Ireland last year, and, games are in Brazil and Germany and London and all over. It's incredible. It really is.
Yeah, the fact that there were literally hundreds of thousands of people each day for the draft this year is astounding to me.
820,000 people in attendance.
Crazy. Wow.
That is something else.
So what was this is an easy part. We said we'll talk about the Bengals and the Steelers draft. Bengals draft is always underwhelming. So the worst thing that I heard, my stepson kept asking me, he's like, what'd you think about the draft? I'm like, I think it was better than most years, but the Bengals at least always get set on certain players. And it doesn't matter where they're available in the draft, they're going to take them. Like, they never play the draft game. Like, they've been jumped 1,000 times by the Steelers or the Ravens to get the guy that they wanted. So apparently this kid they took from Texas A&M, they were going to take him in the first round if they didn't trade away their first round pick, which is insane. That's just how they are. So that's my quick analysis of the Bengals draft. It may work out, it may not. What's the reception of the Steelers draft? You guys generally happy with it?
Yeah, by the way, I really like the Dexter Lawrence pickup for them. He is he's a terrific player, and he's just going to be a headache. And I think all 4 teams in the division address their offensive line or defensive line early in the draft. I mean, it's a trenches division, and it's going to be an interesting, fun division. So I know that, it's talking about the combine, and I sort of Maxi Honachor became somebody that really kind of got on my radar at the combine. And when I left the combine, I thought to myself, I'd like the Steelers to draft this guy. There was a notion that he might be a second-round pick, but then a friend of mine who I really trust and is one of these people whose opinion does matter, told me there's no way after he tested he's going to be a second-round pick. Not a chance. And so I think that when you draft where the Steelers draft all the time, which is in the 20s, right, it is very, very difficult to get certain positions. It's very difficult to get a top-notch cover cornerback. It's difficult to get a top-notch edge guy. It's difficult to get a starting all-pro caliber tackle, and it's difficult to get a quarterback. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And so, like the Steelers have gotten T.J. Watt. Joey Porter Jr. is ascending into a top cover corner. But the notion that you could get a guy, and I think a lot of teams passed on him because he's still a little raw. I mean, Max is from Nigeria. He hasn't played football all that long. It's not like he's never played, but he's played about 4 years. Got great footwork. He's a really good athlete. He's got a nasty streak to him. And so I just think that that's something you can't pass up. And I understand, fans might say, well, they needed more now, because I'm not even sure he's going to start for the Steelers this year. We'll see. Yeah. I think he'll be given every opportunity. But that's also what the Steelers used to do, right? Like people forget that when they drafted Ben Roethlisberger, he wasn't supposed to start. Tommy Maddox was going to be their starting quarterback. Then he got hurt, and Roethlisberger became the starter. So when you can do that, develop guys and put them in when the time is right, I think I love the pick. Absolutely love that pick. And I think with the third round pick, Jennings Dunker from Iowa, the Steelers have, and with what they did a couple years ago when they got Frazier and McCormick and Fautanu, I think they've really solidified their offensive line for years to come. And that's a really, really difficult position to do that in. But I think the Steelers have accomplished that. And then the second round pick, Bernard, is a really polished, good receiver. The kind of guy you want on your team because he's a willing blocker and he's a team first sort of guy in addition to being a good receiver. And then, interesting that you take a kick returner in the fourth round. People,
right.
And when you talk about the draft game, and one of the things that it probably goes back to my English literature days. Every once in a while, some phrase will happen that'll just drive me bananas. Like, they're no longer draft picks or draft capital. Like I don't know if that makes us sound smarter or whatever, but they're draft picks. You spend them and you hope that you get a player that's going to make an impact. And if this kid Weegan can come in and make an impact, then fine. But everyone's got their value on it. And, well, a fourth round pick should be this and should be that. And, if the kid can play and do a great job returning for him, then it's a fantastic pick because that's become a bigger and bigger part of the game. It did last year. They tweaked the rules a little bit to make it more this year. So, I think more than any, most drafts you need a couple of years to figure out, okay, what do we have here? I mean, this is kicking the can down the road a little bit. I think with this draft, it's going to be even more because your first round pick may or may not play this year. You picked a quarterback, Drew Aller, in the third round on upside. I doubt he'll play a significant part of the season. So it truly is a draft that we'll be able to put a better grade on a couple of years. And we all want to grade it, right? Like you said, Tom, the draft becomes so big. What are they going to do? Here's the mock drafts. And by the way, every year I'm like, my son and I will be talking. I'm like, I'm not going to look at that mock draft. It doesn't really matter. Wait. Pete Prisco's got a mock draft out there. Let me check it out. So I'm reading them all. I get as caught up as anybody else. And then I look at all the breakdowns. But this is truly a draft that's going to be hard to put a solid grade on, and for another couple of years because of that.
Yeah, I'm the same. Hold on, I'm the exact same way because. Mike, I'm not going to pay attention. You have to wait a couple of years because they can criticize all they want. Some of these players will, every once in a while, the Bengals and every team will find that, diamond in the rough and they'll emerge into a great player. The Bengals' best defensive lineman ever probably was a sixth round pick, Geno Atkins. I mean, he was a beast and he was taken in the sixth round. Right. They're comparing that kid from Navy to him, thinking that he might emerge. I'm not sure that's true or not, but But it doesn't matter because as soon as the draft's over, I'm like, all right, what they give the Bengals? They give me
so true.
The problem for me with the draft is I don't really follow college football these days the way I did, 10 or 20 years ago. So I didn't recognize most of the names there. So I have to look at people's grades of the draft just to figure out if we did a good job or not.
Yeah, and for me, I try to caution people. Look, we all have our opinions on guys. It's impossible not to watch a game and not come away with an opinion. You're going to come away with an opinion on players, but I'm not a scout, right? Look, we played college football, so I mean, I think we have an idea of how the game's supposed to be played, and we've been observers of it. But I think that one of the things that playing even Division III football taught me was. There are a lot of things that I thought I knew that I don't know about football. I mean, it is humbling when you get in and you're dealing with these coaches that just have been coaching forever and know way more about the game than you do. That's why they're coaches and they're experts, and same thing with scouts. I mean, not that scouts don't miss on guys. So people ask me, what do you think about Drew Aller? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scout. And I will tell you that I try to look at it from a tactical standpoint, from the team standpoint, which is if you hit on this guy and he doesn't play a snap, and by the end of the season you've worked with him in practice and you feel like, okay, we've developed him, we've changed his footwork, we've brought him to the point because he's got the physical attributes. where if he came out in the draft this year, he'd be what he was forecast to be after his last season, which was a first-round pick. Well, then we don't have to trade up to get a quarterback. So when you think about it, I think it was Mel Kiper who called the pick a hedge, and I think that's a pretty good way of looking at it. So if he becomes a backup quarterback, okay, well, you probably would have waited a round or two to get that backup quarterback. And same with Will Howard, by the way, who's also got a chance to be this guy. It's not just Allen. But if either of these guys hits, you don't have to do what they're going to have to do next year. You can go up, you can trade up in the draft and get a quarterback. You can do it. People think you have to be terrible. You don't. The Chiefs had won a playoff game and had I think it was the 27th pick in the draft. They traded up to get Mahomes. The next year, the Bills, who, by the way, they traded with to get Mahomes, they traded up to get Josh Allen. So it can be done, but here's what it's going to cost you. Probably 2 first rounds and a second round. So that's 3 starting players. If they're first round picks, you're hoping those are going to be star level type of players that you have to give up to get a quarterback. So to take a third round pick and hopefully get the opportunity to develop that guy into a starting caliber NFL quarterback means a third round pick, has saved you 2 first round picks and a second round pick or whatever it is you trade up to get him. Now, it doesn't mean you do it willy nilly and scattershot. I'm sure the Steelers obviously were extremely thoughtful with who they selected. So that's sort of the upside of that pick. That's sort of the hedge because, look, people, they need to go get a quarterback. Well, there's only 2 ways to do it. You trade up and get, or 3 ways. You're lousy, right? You trade up and get him in the draft, and the Steelers they're not going to embrace lousy ever. You trade up and get him in the draft, or you acquire him some other way. Well, they've tried to get veteran guys. It's, nobody's trading you Dak Prescott, for example. You're not getting him in a trade. So you try to get that 1 in a million free agent, or you have to get him in the draft.
Well, we've been talking about a lot of numbers here, which is the perfect segue. See, you like that? You like that? Although we got to give Rob the credit, right? Because it is time for our playlist. And as we always do, we ask our guests to come up with a theme for a playlist. And Rob, why don't you explain what you thought the theme should be this time around?
Well, in honor of the draft and, with the first overall selection, blah, 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 I thought, let's do numbers. And I wanted to keep it, there's only 7 rounds in the draft now. There used to be 20. I wanted to keep it within that 7. I don't know where you guys went with your numbers. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4 with my numbers in honor of the first, second, third, 4th round of the NFL draft.
We were talking before we started recording, Rob. Chris and I cannot figure out how we never made a playlist that was based on numbers. It is awesome. That is such a great idea. I am pretty sure, I haven't run this by you, Chris, but I thought when this playlist gets published, I think I'm going to call it Countdown. And
like it.
By the time you're listening to the episode, Countdown, a third song in playlist, will be on all of the music streamers. You can find it on Spotify or Apple, Amazon Music, or YouTube Music. And we are going to alternate our picks until we put together a 10-song countdown playlist. And I think Chris and I both took a little different approaches, but that was what's so great about your theme is if you say, let's do numbers, there's any number of ways to look at it.
That's right.
So why don't we get started? And Rob, you have the honor of giving us the very first song on this playlist.
So, and again, I was looking for the number 1. So I was thinking about Big Star, number 1 hit record. I think that was the name of their initial release. But I went with 1 by Three Dog Night because it just popped into my mind. It is 1 in the first round. And by the way, I was looking up, I didn't realize this until I was researching to get ready for the show. I don't know how I didn't know this because Three Dog Night, if you're of a certain age, they were massive, absolutely massive. I mean, there are groups like that I don't know if they've faded a little bit in people's memories, but Three Dog Night, like Creedence Clearwater Revival, these bands were just incredibly huge. But I didn't realize they had 3 different singers. I had no idea that Three Dog Night had 3 different singers. I thought it was all one. I thought it was all the same guy, but I was doing some research on it last night. Anyway, the number is 1 by Three Dog Night. The song 1.
Although you kind of killed 2 birds there, right? Because the band has a number in there. It looked like you were going to make it really difficult for us, but
no, just went with 1.
That's awesome. My parents love Three Dog Night. I think the song One is one of the very first songs I knew all the words to, just because
Yeah,
they used to play it all the time when I was
yeah,
a kid.
that's right.
All right. I started with the number one, but I decided to go into variables of 10 just because I like patterns in numbers.
Nice.
So my first song, the title's a little confusing until you listen to it, but it's IYLS1 by the band Fox and Veed. They're a alt country band that I like quite a bit. They're newer. But the letters of the title stand for "If You Love Someone," and so it's just a little acronym for the song title. Cute little way to do it, and it allowed me to start with the number one, even though it's embedded into the acronym. So
Very nice. Very nice. So what I decided to do, because I knew I would be picking 3, 6, and 9 in this particular draft, I picked songs that started with or had either 3, 6, or 9 in the title. And like I said, I just thought it was really fun to think about patterns and because what I was shocked by when I thought of doing it this way was I might not even have a song in my library that starts with all those numbers. I have 15 songs that start with 3 or have 3 in the title. I was shocked how many number of songs I had out there. But the one I picked was by the Wallflowers from Bringing Down the Horse in 1996, and it's the song Three Marlenas, which I hadn't thought about in a long time, but I really like that album, and I used to listen to that song a lot. I really enjoy that song, so I thought it was a good one to throw into the playlist. So Three Marlenas by the Wallflowers, which takes us back to you, Rob, and I believe number 2 on your draft.
Yeah, I went very traditional. You guys went further reaching. I was more good for you guys. And by the way, I'm gonna have to look at your guys' playlists and come up with some new artists to listen to.
Mhm.
So I think we're all sort of alt Americana fans.
Yes, yes.
So I will look forward to that. So my second one was a song I really love, and it's called "Two of Us" by the Beatles, and that's my selection. I think I saw Paul McCartney play that a few years ago, but great song off the album "Let It Be." I mean, you talk about if you ever listen to Sirius and they have their top 100 countdowns songs by the Beatles, it's unbelievable. I mean, 100 great songs by a group in 7 years, and then you're like, wait a minute, they don't have that. Wait a minute, there's a few songs that didn't make the list. Two of Us makes the list, but so that is my anyway. That is my I love that song by the Beatles. That is my second song.
Can't go wrong with the Beatles.
And you can't go wrong with Canada. So I went with
Or you can't go wrong. Okay.
I can't go wrong with Canada. One of my favorite bands these days is a band called Current Swell. They just have all kinds of influences. Their songs, you can tell it's them because of the lead singer, but their sound, they have a ton of influences. They even have almost like a surf sound in some of their stuff, which I don't usually like, but I like this band. So 1 times 10 is 10. So 10 feet tall is the song title from the same album by the band Current Swell. Definitely catchy. Rob, I think you might like that one.
Yeah. I've written it down.
Excellent. Yeah, and you're right. That's what it's been a lot of fun doing playlists with guests because they'll come up with stuff. Sometimes it's a brand new artist. A lot of times it's just a song that I hadn't thought about for a long time or something that's a little deeper in somebody's catalog, that kind of thing.
By the way, the last time we were talking about Todd Snyder.
Yes.
What an awful thing. Oh my goodness gracious. Terrible his passing.
Yeah. I actually wrote a blog after he passed away that just it really hit me hard, and it was such a weird and it sounds like kind of an awful way for him to pass away. But I don't know if you're on social media, whoever had his accounts is still putting stuff out there, and there's been a lot of good stuff that's come through there. Not to mention all of the covers that people do now. You'll see little videos on YouTube or wherever, Instagram. People doing covers of Todd Snyder songs, and
fantastic.
It's
that's great.
Kind of a beautiful tribute to the guy. Everybody agrees is just an amazing songwriter. So, all right, so we're now to the 6th pick for this playlist, and I chose the song Six Diamond Baguettes by Phil Cody from an album called Mad Dog Sessions in 2004. Phil Cody is another one of those Americana guys who just really kind of was under the radar, I think, for most of his career, but he's got a couple really great albums, and this is a really, really good song. He's got that. It's not. I won't even call his voice twangy. It's just different, and it really caught my ear. I'm not even sure how I first heard him, but he's a really interesting singer. Has a really interesting voice. So that'll be number 6 on this playlist.
So I'm going all chalk here, right? Like Three Dog Night, the Beatles, and now I've got Bob Marley, one of my wife's favorite songs, Three Little Birds. So I've got 1, 2. That's my third with the third overall selection. Rob King selects Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. Phenomenal song, of course. So an easy one, but there you have it.
Christopher?
All right. Yes. So 10 times 10 is 100. And I went with the song from Rainbow Kitten Surprise that I'm pretty sure I did as a staff pick previously. And I can't stop listening to it. It's called 100 Summers. I love their music. They're from Western North Carolina. It's a little raunchy. There may be a few F-bombs dropped in this song. So not for the children, but definitely for us. 100 Summers by Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Yeah, that's a band that I also really like, and it is not. I don't think if someone listened to Rainbow Kitten Surprise, they'd necessarily think that that you or I, with our kind of history, would say, yeah, that's a band I've been listening to. But I like them a lot. They're more poppy. They've got kind of a psychedelic feel sometimes, I think.
I don't think I would go to a concert of theirs.
Yes, yeah.
So I will listen to them all the time streaming, but I'm not sure I would subject myself to the audience that would probably go to a Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Not sure you want to take the mushrooms before you before you go. Yeah, they're fun to listen to, though. I really like that band.
They are.
I did have an alternate 6. I just realized it was on my list here. There's a local band here in Joliet called the Righteous Hillbillies, and they do a song called 6 Feet Under, which is very kind of classic country rock, twangy stuff. I'm throwing that as a bonus. Anybody who's listening should probably look up the Righteous Hillbillies and 6 Feet Under. But that's not. I already picked my 6 song, and my 9 song is a song that I know Chris loves. It's the song 9 Bullets by Drive-By Truckers from way back in 1999 in their album Pizza Deliverance. They also do, I think, in a couple of their live albums, they do versions of that song. But for the playlist, I'm going to do the studio version of 9 Bullets. We've talked about Drive-By Truckers ad infinitum on this podcast. They are one of the great rock and roll kind of alt country Americana type bands. And if you can see them live, go see them live as soon as possible.
Would love to. And by the way, you made me think of. So I was locked into the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing. You made me think of 6 Feet of Snow by Little Feat, one of my favorite bands. Yeah. Great song, and actually a song I much prefer to the song that I picked. So I picked the song 4 Sticks because I wanted to go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's off Led Zeppelin 4, which is my favorite Led Zeppelin album. I grew up listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin, but I will also say there's a lot of Led Zeppelin that now I have very little patience for. And there's, I think almost all of Led Zeppelin 4 is tremendous, except for the song 4 Sticks, which I'm not a big fan of, but I just chose it because it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe on the playlist, maybe for here, we could say 4 Sticks. Maybe you could replace that with 6 Feet of Snow by Little Feat, which is, in my opinion, a much better song.
Or we could add both. Nothing says we can't. This one can go to 11.
Yeah, right. we were just talking about that with a recent guest where he couldn't decide between 2 songs. I was just editing it the other day, Chris, and we were like, I said, well, which one would you pick out of those 2? And then as we were going along, I was like, we're making the rules here. It doesn't have to only be 10. And actually, I'm throwing it in the outline right now.
All right.
Perfect.
So that is one way or the other our playlist. It may be 10 songs, it may be 11s. You'll have to go to the streaming services and find out. But you can find them. First of all, you can also find them on our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. We have a From Our Shows drop-down menu, and you can find that there. But also just go directly to Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Spotify or Apple Music and listen to this one. This one's a lot of fun. And by the way, I think this theme is going to rear its head again, Rob. Maybe we'll hold on to it until the next book drops, and we'll have you back. And
I'll come up with some better numbers. I won't be locked into the 1, 2, 3, 4 selections. But in this particular instance, I traded my 4th and 5th round picks and came up with this.
See, there you go. Perfect. I'm just more interested to see what crazy patterns Chris comes up with next time.
Love it.
That was a lot of fun, Rob. Thank you. And as Tom said,
guys.
I still can't believe we never thought of that because it's such a fun topic.
Yeah, we could have done a dozen of those, I think.
Yeah. Enjoy the game today, Rob. Good luck to your Pirates, and really appreciate you having you on. It's always a pleasure.
Chris, Tom, thanks very much. Appreciate you having me on. I really enjoyed it, guys.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Great seeing you. Talk to you soon.
That will take us to our Loft of Wisdom quotes.
You better open up your eyes, babe, because fools do get wise.
We love quotes. Quotes are what we like to put on our website. We exchange them by text sometimes. Sometimes we just hear something funny or interesting and we write it down, and we decided to put it on our website. So if you go to thirdsonginpodcast.com and find Loft of Wisdom, you will find many quotes, including this week's quotes. What do you got?
Yeah, so thanks to Rob and his playlist theme numbers. When we get to our playlist for the season picks, you'll see the connection, but it drew me back to Kevin Welch, who is one of both of our favorites.
Yep.
Rob has been writing, not kids' books, I know that, but it's this connection with his daughter and, how he's writing these middle-age books. Just really cool.
Middle grade books.
Middle grade, middle age.
Although I guess I'm past middle age at this point, but
middle age. Yeah, that's what happens when you get old. You don't remember stuff. You just throw words out.
You long for middle age is what you do.
Just reminded me of Kevin Welch's song to his son when his son was a little younger, who I think his son now is a performer and not young anymore. It's a little bit longer quote, but I'm going to just read it. It's from his song, A Letter to Dustin. Just remember how you'd ask me how much I love you. I'd tell you as deep as the sea. Well, I've seen that ocean now, and it ain't deep enough to hold how much you mean to me. Just one of my favorite quotes, or favorite set of lyrics from him. It's just a cool song. He's out on the road, missing his son. Obviously, he references the ocean several times, and that was my favorite one. So I thought that was an appropriate one. Thanks to Rob.
Kevin Welch is an amazing songwriter.
He really is.
You've now I got to go back and pull up that album because I haven't listened to him for a while.
Yeah.
So thank you. Actually, that's great.
Yeah.
My quote is also inspired by Rob, maybe a little bit more directly. And I found a quote from an author, a very famous author, Madeleine L'Engle. She's the author that wrote A Wrinkle in Time. And I've actually never read those books, but they are really, really popular and have been for decades now, kind of middle grade level books. But she has a quote that I searched up and found on Google before this episode that goes like this. You have to write the book that wants to be written. And if the book will be too difficult for grown-ups, then you write it for children. And I'm sorry, Rob King isn't here to hear that quote because I think that applies to what he's doing. And hopefully when he listens to the episode, he'll appreciate how he inspired that one for me. Next up is staff picks.
Just around the corner from you.
Staff picks is where Tom and I make recommendations of new stuff, music, books, movies, TV. Usually it is truly new stuff. Every once in a while, it's something that's just new to us. So what is new to you this week that you'd like to recommend, Tom?
What is new to me is also new in general. It's a 2026 album that came out probably about 2 months ago or so called Broken View by Sam Barber. I don't know how much you've listened to Sam Barber. I'm a big fan. He's one of those, He sounds a lot like a lot of other guys, I'm afraid, but I really
Mhm.
like that sound. He's got that vocal fry thing that we've talked about in the past, and I've even written about in the past. He's one of the masters, though, of he's got this just real quirky, interesting voice. I like his songs a lot. I've listened to this album now probably 3 or 4 times, all from first song to last song. I haven't heard a bad song on it. I really enjoy it, and I am recommending it highly as my staff pick, the album Broken View from Sam Barber.
I have not listened to Mr. Barber, and I will try to. I'm not even gonna say I will because I
Yeah, you always you lead me on and then you dash me to the rocks.
All right, I went with this new single. It's a band that I like a lot, Colton Moore and the Clever Few, which one is one of my favorite band titles. It's called Someone Who'd Done This Before, and another one about a parent singing to a child. This is a cool song to his daughter. The standout lyric for me is, "Before you go and take on this big world, I just hope you listen to someone who's done this before." He's got a cool voice. At some point, Tom and I are going to do an episode about cool voices that we like. Colton Moore will most likely be on that list because it's not a perfect voice by any stretch, but it's perfect for what I like to listen to. So check out that song, Someone Who Done This Before.
Cool. I will check it out. I love that band name. And
Yeah.
you recommended a different Colton Moore and the Clever Few song months and months ago now.
Yeah.
And I remember enjoying the song, even though I can't remember which one it was. It was not this one for sure. So,
No, it wasn't. I'm trying to, we've been doing this for a long time and always making sure we don't repeat ourselves can be a bit of a challenge,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
at this
Although, I
age.
mean, repeating an artist is okay as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned because we want them
Oh,
to
yeah.
put out new stuff.
Right.
So, all right. So the other thing we like to do, we like quotes. We like to make staff picks. We also, every episode, each pick a song for our season long playlist. So we have a season 12 playlist. This is episode what, 5, 6? This is episode 6 of season 12, if you can believe that. So this will be our 11th and 12th songs on that playlist, which you can find wherever you stream your music. If you search third song in season 12, it should come up, but sometimes it doesn't. On Spotify, you can also search T. Polachek, which should bring up all of our season long playlists. But
Yep.
we each have a song for this one, and I want to know what your song is.
I went with variables of 10 for the guest playlist with Rob. I went with the highest number I could find for my playlist pick, 5,001,000 Miles by Kevin Welch. Another
Nice.
fantastic song. And I dare you to find a higher number than that in a song. So.
I was going to say, unfortunately, it didn't fit in your pattern that you were looking for
Yeah.
for the special playlist, but you got it in there. I appreciate that.
Oh, I had one chosen. I had 1,000. I think it's called 1,000 Graves. I think that's the number. So that would have been 100 times 10.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I did not go with that one. It was a little downbeat. I wanted to, not that 5,001,000 Miles is a song about missing home and his wife and children and his kids. But I went with that because Kevin Welch deserves to be on the playlist.
He sure does, and I don't think we put him on either a special playlist or a season playlist, and that is a grievous error on our part. That's so bad it should be on post facto. But you've remedied that. So listen to Kevin Welch on the season 12 playlist, and then after that, listen to 313 by Wyatt Flores from his album Life Lessons. He's a young guy. He's kind of in the mold of the Tyler Childers, Jason Isbell type. Great songwriter. He's a Mexican-American country music guy. He's from Oklahoma. I think he's hitting it big now. I think he's starting to fill arenas or at least big theaters, that kind of thing. He looks like he's about 14 years old if you ever see his videos. But I really like him as a songwriter. I think he's really interesting. He's, again, got that kind of cool voice that's off the beaten path. And I came across Wyatt Flores originally, I believe, through one of my sons. And I've really become a fan. So he's a guy I would like to see live, except I think he's gotten so popular now that if I went to see him, it would be one of those shows where everybody around me is singing every song along with him, so you can't hear him, and that would irritate the hell out of me. So What I'm going to do is listen to the album Life Lessons and the song 3. It's actually 3/13, 313. But again, it's a number song, and I couldn't figure out how to fit it into our playlist with Rob. So we're putting it on this one.
Yeah, I went to Nashville. It's been several months, if not a year or so ago, and he was everywhere. Like he was on magazine covers and
Was he?
billboards. Yeah, he's becoming a big deal, and he deserves it. He's really good. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think he started as one of those guys who was just putting stuff out on TikTok, kind of like Noah Khan,
Yeah.
he just lit on fire. And now, like I said, I don't know that I'd want to go see him live. I would have loved to have seen him live in a small club and a Fitzgerald's like here in Berwyn or, like one of the listening rooms you've talked about around your place. But now I'm afraid you're going to go see him and it's going to be United Center. And,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to do that. We want to thank Rob King for returning as a two-time guest now on Third Song In. It's always great to talk to Rob, and it's so cool. You talk about a breadth of an interview. I mean, we covered a lot of different stuff in this one, and I was interested the whole time. He's a very interesting guy. But we want to make sure that you check out his book 2 of the Covenland series, Sandina's Prophecy. Basically, the best place to find it is on Amazon. If you search either Rob King or Sandina's Prophecy, it will come up. We will put a link to the Amazon page as well on thirdsonginpodcast.com. And if you're in the Pittsburgh area, I know he's done a number of signings. So if you can check out his social media and see where he might be with his new book, Sandina's Prophecy.
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, the breadth of what he does, we only touched on in our interview, but he's such an impressive guy. And
Yeah.
I don't know how he finds time to read. That was a great question to ask him.
Yeah, it occurred to me as I was prepping for this. I was like, when the fuck? Because he loves to read. He talked about it the last time we talked to him. And I just thought, how do you do that? Do you do that?
All right. Third Song In is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Joliet, Illinois, and lovely Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Please email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions for future episodes or guests to thirdsongin@gmail.com.
Check out our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. All kinds of stuff on there, but especially when we have a guest on the show, we'd encourage you to check out the As Mentioned page. You can find links to all things Rob King there, and we definitely encourage you to check it out.
Please follow us wherever you listen to your podcast, rate and review us on all of the platforms. There's a specific type of star I would ask you to give us, and that's a motherfucking star. Give us all of them, will you? Just review us, give us thumbs up, heart us where you can heart us, share our podcast episodes to people. I was going to say to people who might be interested. I don't care. Share them with everybody. I don't care if you think they're going to be interested or not. But please get the word out for us.
Yeah, we'd ask you to share the playlist with all those motherfuckers too. I mean, they're out there. All the streaming services, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Amazon, and probably ones we don't even know about. Find them and share those motherfuckers.
Amen, brother. Amen. Please follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Blue Sky. We like to post stuff about the podcast, but more importantly, we like to post links and information about our past and future guests. So if there is a Rob King reading or signing or sighting of any sort, you may find it on our Blue Sky Instagram or Facebook accounts. That goes for all of our past and future guests. We try to keep everybody informed about what those folks are doing.
And Tom and I also, in addition to the podcast, take turns writing a blog, one each week. You can find that on our website. You can also find it even more easily on Substack. And on Substack, you can subscribe and get the blog in your inbox every Friday morning. So we'd encourage you to do that because, not to be modest, am I being modest? Immodest. But we put some pretty entertaining stuff out there. I think it's worth the read. And it's usually, not too long. That's the other benefit there.
Yeah, short articles. We'd love it if not only would you read them, but share them with other people because we're pretty proud of that. You've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
I was doing so well until I wasn't.
Yeah, that describes our lives right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, San Antonio.
Good night.
All right.